Happy Monday, everybody. Okay, so this video, I'm going to tie into Greg's last video a little bit, although I'm going to dig into more cultural economics, right? So I was reading the Wall Street Journal this weekend, and I saw this great article in the finance section about this young lady. Her name is Kyla Scanlon, and she's an influencer. She makes videos that are really geared towards the Gen Z generation. These are young kids that are just starting out that don't know anything about economics and barely know how to manage a checkbook. Actually, I'm sure they don't even have checkbooks. It's all digital and Apple Wallet stuff. But she makes these videos and she takes economic principles and translates them so that they can better understand them. And the issues on these kids, I say the kids, these young adults, the issues on their minds are, I've got to buy a car. And what does an interest rate even mean? Or how do I make my dollars spread further at the grocery store? I've got rent going up, or their ultimate goal of buying a house. How can you even do that? So she addresses all these principles. Well, she came up with a new word, which I loved, and I think you will too. And it's a word amalgamation, right? It's kind of like when Jennifer Lopez, J Lo, was dating Ben Affleck, and now they're married, but I think they're getting divorced. I don't know. I don't really even care. But when they were first dating, they called him Benifer, right? Well, Kyla Scanlon has created this term called Vibecession, which is the two words are the first one, the key one is recession. But she kept reading all these reports published by economists in Washington saying there is no recession, everything's great. But she was like, well, the vibes feel like it's a recession. And I think that's what we're dealing with here. And so the interesting thing is that now this is coming out in the Wall Street Journal and the weekend edition. Why is that? Why is it coming out now? Because she actually coined the term a while back. Well, I think it's because that's where we're heading is a recession. And they're just saying, okay, maybe it's not here technically by definition, but might as well be because the vibes are coming off as if we've got one. And so now with the Vibecession in mind, I'm going to tie back to last week's missive where the Fed lowered interest rates, right, by 50 basis points. Sorry, 0.5%. In geek finance terms, we call them basis points, but the rest of the world, we all know that as 0.5%. So they just cut it by 0.5%. Well, let's look at the last few times they've done that, right? Because when they cut it by 0.5%, Jerome Powell said the economy is doing great. We are in control. Therefore, we're going to cut the rates by 0.5%. And Greg and I are like, wait, therefore doesn't make any sense. You don't cut by 0.5 percentage point if everything's going great. So let's look at the last few times the Fed did cut by 50 basis points or 0.5%. The last time was actually right during COVID when they shut down the global economy, the stock market was tanking, everybody was freaking out, and it was right before they had dumped the $6 trillion into the economy through stimulus checks. Well, they were trying to free up capital, they lowered it, right? So that wasn't like everything's under control, therefore we're going to cut by 0.5%. When was the time before that? It was in 2007, right? Ben Bernanke was the Fed chair, and he was saying, everybody relax. We got mortgages under control. Everything's going fine. Therefore, we're going to cut the interest rates by 0.5 percentage point. Well, by 2008, we were in the worst recession since the Great Depression. When was the time before that they cut by 0.5%? In 2001. 2001, right? So we had big bankruptcies like Enron and MCI WorldCom filed bankruptcy. Then we had the World Trade Center. Don't everybody relax. Everything's under control. Therefore, we're going to cut by 0.5 percentage point. So you look back at when the Fed has cut by 0.5 percentage point. It doesn't happen every day, and it doesn't happen when things are going great. They're saying one thing but doing another, and you look at what they're doing and disregard what they're saying, which goes back to the Vibecession. But back to what Greg was saying, that's not good for the economy, but it will be good for your portfolios, as you've seen. And we're having a good month, and we expect those trends to continue, which is good for your portfolios. Okay, with that, you all have a great week. See you next Monday.